Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Aaron Hilliard for another episode of Mushroom Wonderland. Today, me and my dogs just going out on a mushroom walk. We're going to see what kind of mushrooms are growing out here in the woods alongside the trail. We're going through many different habitats, a lot of different kind of mushrooms out here, even in the middle of winter here in the Pacific Northwest. It's sort of mild, and it's been a mild winter, so there's still mushrooms popping up. So come with me and my dogs to discover what kind of mushrooms are growing out here in the dead of winter in Mushroom Wonderland.
Welcome to Mushroom Wonderland.
It has been raining like the dickens out here. So yeah, when I say dead of winter, you know, I mean like 42 degrees. And there's Gunnar. When I look over here, I saw a little white mushroom. Creamy colored, kind of a tan center. Looks like a toasted marshmallow maybe. It's kind of rooted in there pretty deeply. And there we go, kind of widely spaced gills that are decurrent. Yeah, it looks like a toasted marshmallow in the middle. One thing I noticed is that this mushroom does have a definite odor to it. And this one smells a bit like almond extract or amaretto or something like that. That's very sweet. And this one is called Hygrophorus bakerensis. And so Hygrophorus is one of the waxy caps. And this one's named after Mount Baker here in Washington State. So Mount Baker is one of our many volcanoes. This one was named because it was described from up there. It was described by the great Alexander Smith. It's got a sweet smell. It is edible, but I usually don't find more than one or two. They're actually sort of rare, and they don't grow in big numbers together. Like, they're never in a big group of them like a lot of mushrooms like to grow in big troops. But nobody really highly regards them. I don't know. If you try them out, put in the comments what you think. And we would all like to know. Are they a tasty mushroom? I don't know. All right. You guys ready? Let's keep moving. It's like kind of foggy and misty out here. This is Bigfoot country too, so keep your eyes open. We might run into one, or I see one off in the distance run by. There's still some older dug fir trees, like this one's probably like 50 or 60 years old, you know, and then it's intermixed with a lot of western hemlock. So that's really good habitat for a lot of these ectomycorrhizal species. And the trees and the fungi exchange nutrients, and then some of them produce fruiting bodies that we call mushrooms. And some of those mushrooms are good edible ones, and most of the good edible ones are mycorrhizal. But it is late in the season. Everything was fruiting like crazy for months, and now it's really on the decline. So mushrooms are farther and fewer between, but they're still out here. I hear a bunch of golden finches up here. The state bird. Look at this, what Gunnar just about stepped on. Look at that. Growing like right here on the trail. Pacific golden chanterelle. Good find, bud. It's been split. Looks like half of it's missing or something, or maybe that just split away from that. Yeah. Either way, not looking the greatest. Kind of soggy. And then right here under these wood ferns, I see another one, and you can see how old these guys are now. Oh, and it is just real slimed. So yeah, the chanterelles are past their prime for the most part. You might find a couple that are okay to eat, but these ones are no good anymore. But when you feel it and it's floppy like that and all slimy, this one's actually pretty firm, but still it's getting a little slimy up here. Bacterial, man, you can get food poisoning, so don't be eating rotten stuff. Been there for months, dropping spores. What do we got here? Oh, how pretty. Look at that. Look at the stipe on it. This one, Hyphiloma dispersum. Some people, I don't know, might be Hyphiloma marginatum. People interchange those names. They seem to be synonymous, but Hyphiloma related to your sulfur tufts. Sulfur tufts are really poisonous. I'm not sure about these. I think I've heard that they're not poisonous, kind of like the capnoides, but you know, I don't know of anybody that really wants to eat them, but they have a really cool stipe texture. And we call that flocose or chevron pattern. Some people describe it as snake skin pattern. And then a dark purple brown spore print. Really creamy colored gills right now, but they will get dark with age. And I think there's an old one right here. Look, we got some different ages of them. Here's a more mature one, and then the gills have started to change that dark color. See that? Same mushroom, different ages. And another one right there. So they call them Hyphiloma dispersum because they're dispersed, and you usually don't find them in a cluster like you do the fasciculari or the capnoides. But there's quite a few of these right in this little spot. This is how much rain we've been getting. That's deep. I don't think I can go. I can go over there. It's kind of crazy out here this time of year. You gotta walk around all these pools. Look at these big gnarly things growing right here on the side of the trail. Wow. Big Helvella vespertina, or the elfin saddle, the western elfin saddle. And very bizarre looking mushroom. This is an ascomycete, kind of like a morel. It's also ectomycorrhizal, growing with trees here. And it's said to be edible. I've never eaten it personally. And when they're at this stage, I mean, this thing is old, but it just looks like an alien. Really cool mushrooms, doing a good job out here helping the trees. And, you know, from what I hear from people who have eaten them, they say that they're delicious. Go ahead, try them out. Leave it in the comments. The Helvella vespertina, or the western elfin saddle. Still growing through winter. Even though these are a little bit old, even if I did eat them, I'd probably not eat these particular ones. There you go. And look at right here. This one is a bird's nest fungus. This one looks like a Nivio tomentosa. Nidula being the genus. Nivio tomentosa, the woolly bird's nest. You can see it's got kind of a woolly fuzz on the outside of the nest. And then when you look inside, it has these little things that look like birds' eggs, right? What I'm talking about. Look at that. These are all the peridials. And these all produce spores. They all produce a bunch of spores on each one. And they're sticky, so they stick onto the leaves. When a raindrop comes and splashes them off, there we go. Bunch of peridials now on the salal leaf, and they're going to shoot spores off from here. Don't worry, these are super duper common. They're just small, so they go overlooked, but you know, one of the coolest mushrooms for sure, I think. This area was clear cut maybe 10 years ago. This area used to be so chock full of chanterelle and hedgehog. One day I showed up and it had just been mowed clear, save for a few trees. But on a clear day, you can see across the Olympic Mountains, the Hood Canal, everything down here. But today it is just socked in with fog. And it makes kind of a cool scene, but I'm more interested in where the live trees are, like in this forest on the edge of the clear cut. Heading in here, it's pretty lush, second growth forest, a lot of Douglas fir, western hemlock, moss, and good fungal diversity. You know, it's January now, it is winter out here, and although it hasn't froze hard yet, there's just been so much torrential rain for the past month or two. Honestly, since, you know, September we've been having rain, so a lot of the mushrooms, even though they didn't get froze out, they've just kind of been drowned out. So in the winter time, you know, certain kind of mushrooms can tolerate this sort of rain and constant weather, and but they're farther and fewer between for sure, but they're still out here. Gunnar is now 10 and a half years old, but he's still going strong, man. He loves it out here on the trails. And but you might see him in a few less videos just because he gets a little tendonitis in his wrist, and so he starts limping sometimes. And so we just give him bed rest during those times. But right here, one of the trees that fell across the trail and got cut is covered in these beautiful, beautiful mushrooms. Look at this. Trametes versicolor, or the turkey tail. Turkey tail mushrooms, probably the most highly studied mushroom for medicinal properties in the world. And these ones are growing on this old big leaf maple tree, and you can see they have these concentric rings on top of different color, often orange, brown, sometimes gray, black, blue. Underneath it's got this white porous surface, so it's got these little tiny holes called pores. That's where the spores get produced, and they fall out of there. And these are freshies, and you can simply harvest them just by detaching them from the log like that. You know, probably leave some behind, or don't, whatever, it's up to you. But a lot of people think it's nice to leave some behind so they can continue to sporulate. But it's really common. These spores are everywhere in the air. And, you know, you could take these, just pick them off the logs, take them home, simmer them for a couple hours on low and make a tea out of them. So there you go. Easy to identify, really common, no dangerous lookalikes. You know, it's got the concentric color bands on the top. It's got the white pore surface underneath. Growing on wood, you're good to go. Turkey tail or Trametes versicolor. I'm going to harvest some of these. This is a good thing to harvest turkey tails in. I just carry a net bag like this in my backpack, and I can harvest these, and they're so tough that they can kind of bounce around in the bag just lashed onto my backpack. I'm going to leave some of these younger ones here. That's a nice piece. Right down here is kind of interesting. I spot these things growing here out of the moss. And these ones are considered earth tongues, commonly called earth tongues. This one is a geoglossum, just totally black. It's an ascomite, so it's actually kind of related to morels and mushrooms like that, helvella. But it produces its spores in something called asci, which will eject the spores out with a little bit of air pressure. But this one, Geoglossum glabrum, according to alpental.com, is our local black earth tongue that's not scaly. And there's quite a few of them around here. Not known to be edible, but kind of a flattened head. Oops. Considered endangered in Sweden. They're super duper rare in some areas of Europe, but they don't seem to be too rare here. I happen to see them in this neck of the woods pretty commonly. And I came into a nice fruiting of them here. So I'm going to take some photos and upload them to iNaturalist. So legend has it that there's an old tin mine in these hills where a couple guys convinced the government that they had found tin deposits in this mountainside. They got a big grant for like $1 million to dig this mine, and then they abandoned it and ran off with the money. And so now there's like a big cave in the side of this hill that has like big crazy crickets in it. So we're gonna go take a look at this mine. Look at this wetland down here. This is all created by beavers. It's a huge valley up here, big mountain valley that's just a total swamp made by the beavers. Oh yeah, there it is. Look at this. An old mine shaft in the mountainside. It's creepy. I don't know if there's something in there. Hello? Full of water. You're gonna get some pretty wet boots if you go walking in there. Probably good. This thing's kind of sketch. Pretty neat though. If I had like muck boots on, I'd be going up in there. But I'm scared. I mean, I have mud boots. Not good mud, not the right boots. Bad boots. Wow, look at this impressive fruiting of mycena. Large mycena. These ones are pretty robust. So that's why they get the name Mycena robusta. Look at that. White spored saprobe. And these guys grow in big troops like this when it starts getting cold. They're a winter kind of species, and they'll be fruiting through March. And yeah, they have really bold striations, kind of a gray colored mushroom, more pale at the margin, and then kind of dark colored gills, but it's going to have white spores. And yeah, these are super duper common. Not known for edibility. Again, just kind of small and not really good for culinary value. So, most of the mycena, just there isn't information about edibility. Some of them do contain some muscarine. So, if you do want to eat these, proceed with caution. And, let us know what happens. But mycena robusta, bunch of these growing here in the wintertime in Washington State. Check out this little nook in here. Firstly, I see this. This one is the bitter polypore, Jonoporus hiatus. This thing is the most bitter mushroom you can eat. Brown on top, white underneath, and you can see it's pores. It's not gills or a sponge. It's kind of semi-hard, not like other woody conchs, but this thing is super duper bitter. I'm gonna leave this one here to continue to grow. And right over here, I see a nice rooting of Chanterelles neotubiformis. These guys are the Yellowfoot. Look at those gorgeous mushrooms. And that's a big and mature one. Umbilicate, look at that. Hollow all the way down the stipe at full maturity. Gills decurrent. Anastomosing gills that look kind of veiny, but these are super cool. And bright yellow base. And so these guys are a good edible. Chanterelles, same genus as the black trumpet. Oh, look at that, a 2 for stem. It's fused back into itself. Very nice, but these are good edibles. And hoping to find its buddy, the black trumpet. But we'll take gold trumpets. They're good too. And then right here, look at this one little mushroom coming out from the base of that tree. And so we got white gills. Look at that. And then the cap is this sort of reddish color. And it's almost greasy feeling, buttery feeling. And they call this one the buttery colibia or rhodocolibia. Not sure the exact species. I think we have a distinct set of rhodocolibia here in the Pacific Northwest that are being worked out. They might just be numbered still, I don't know. But the buttery colibia, you could just call it that. But yeah, not of any culinary value, just growing alone there. Still kind of cool. But these guys are of really good culinary value. So they come home in the basket. And if they're too old, leave them behind. But these guys have dropped a lot of spores. Something caught my eye right in here at the base of this tree. And right down here, we have what are known as mica caps, or Coprinellus micaceus. And they grow in big clusters like this. They're a saprobic mushroom that eats decaying matter like the rotting stump of a tree. And they grow in these nice little clusters of cute little mushrooms. And they often have little granules on the cap. You can kind of see it right up here on the edge. You can see these little granules. And they have a dark spore print. They're one of the inky caps. So they will deliquesce into ink, although not quite as quick as your like Coprinus comatus. But these ones are a decent edible. In fact, I've heard they're really good in soup and stew. And unfortunately, I've never tried them out yet. There's not a lot here. There's probably only, 20 different little mushrooms, and not enough to really want to put in my basket. But these could grow up. I could come back in a few days and pick these, and they just will disintegrate sort of in a pan. But if you add them to a soup or a gravy or a stew, I guess they add a really nice umami flavor. Totally edible. Coprinellus section micaceae, or the mica caps. Right here I've come across some mushrooms. Look like they're pretty old, getting kind of slimy. But here's a younger cluster of them, and I noticed that they're clustered or cespitose. And as I pull up this cluster and kind of flip it over, we'll see, white gills under there, kind of widely spaced, but very much clustered. And so these ones have kind of a greasy appearance and a certain kind of stipe texture that just lets me know that they're in the genus Lyophilum. So these ones are our local fried chicken mushroom, or Lyophilum decastes group. And so these ones are edible and said to be a decent edible mushroom when they're not too old. You know, there's a cluster of them right there, but those things are definitely bacterial, would make you sick. There's more right there that are just obliterated, and then some other small groupings here. But the fried chicken mushroom said to be a pretty good edible one. White spored, white gilled, greasy tops, but always grown in a big cluster like this, cespitose. So not a lot of mushrooms that grow in real cespitose clusters like this, besides mushrooms in the Lyophiliaceae or the Lyophilum, often growing in grass, little grassy areas just like this. So these ones, these are probably decent, you know, make a decent little omelet. They'll probably go in the basket today. And those ones are going to stay here, but I'll check back here next year to see if I can find any more of the fried chicken mushroom. Look at all of this. And there's a large one right here. These ones are earth balls or scleroderma. And another one coming up here. Not quite truffles. These are actually toxic. And I'm going to cut one in half so we can see what the inside looks like. So these kind of mushrooms are considered earth balls, the type that are round and hard on the outside, and then there's black stuff on the inside. This is where the spores get produced. And these are actually in the boletales, so they're related to boletes. So they're a bolete that is gastroid. It's basically completely closed its cap, and they are poisonous, and they are ectomycorrhizal. So they grow with plants and trees, and they actually put them in soils as like a gardening enhancement to have ectomycorrhizae in the soil. But these are not an edible puffball or truffle. These are earth balls or scleroderma. There's like 30 different species, most of them in North America. I'm not sure exactly on this one, but I'm going to take it home and check out the spores under the scope, probably get an idea of what this one might be. There's a big key on mushroomexpert.com if you want to look into the genus Scleroderma and the earth balls, but generally just avoid them unless you want to study them and contribute to science. But there you go, Scleroderma species. Oh wow, look at this huge fruiting of orange jelly fungus growing all over the log. So just like its name implies, it is gelatinous, it's orange, and it is a fungus, and it's growing in these big, look at these. Wow, those are unique fruiting bodies. That's really cool. So Dacromyces chrysospermus looks a lot like other forms of quote-unquote witch's butter, but this one grows solely on conifer, and it's really common in the winter. And you can make gummies out of these. They are edible, and they're extra huge right now, and they're all over the place. So they're really loving the weather out here. And Dacromyces chrysospermus could be confused with the Tremella mesenterica or the real witch's butter, but this one, our conifer orange jelly fungus, is probably what you should call it. Edible. I wouldn't go eating like a pound of this raw. You can impress your friends and have a little nibble, but all of these orange jelly funguses are safe to eat. There's some little ones that grow on sticks, and then there's these ones that usually grow on logs. And yeah, go ahead, have a nibble. Some people will take like juice and then dehydrate these and make gummy, little mushroom gummies out of them. So you can get creative, but these are really common. You're probably seeing these in your neck of the woods right now in the winter in the Pacific Northwest. Look at this. Dang, so even though some of them are waterlogged, there are still some absolute beauties out here. Golden chanterelles. Don't get much more perfect than that. Wow. Yeah, look at these. Picture perfect. Wow, here's some mushrooms that are kind of standing out to me. Look how red these are from the top. and underneath super bright red. So this one probably Cortinarius smithii, maybe sanguineus, but either way, these are really good dye mushrooms for fabric dyers. Look at that beautiful red, and that will transfer into protein fabric like wool or silk. And so I collect these and I dry them out for later. I promise I'm going to make a video about fungal dyeing, just like the basics, and what it's like to put mushrooms in the water with fabric. And so I do collect these. They're gorgeous. You know, the fungal dye people will love those. And it's okay to put them in the same basket with your edibles. Just don't get them mixed up. These aren't recommended to eat. Not really sure on the edibility of them, but it would be pretty hard to mix those up, I think. But just be careful out there if you're carrying multiple species in your basket, and especially ones that are kind of suspect as far as edibility. Thanks for coming on this episode. I encourage you to go to mushroomwonderland.com. Look at all the cool stuff. I write blogs. I put them up there. We have merchandise. I have guided tours. So everything you want to know at mushroomwonderland.com. Make sure to hit subscribe and check me out on all the other social media platforms. And until the next video, much love, everyone.